Study Section 4. Motor and Physical Development Reflexes. Loose sheets. Introduction. After birth, the child begins to develop. The development covers motor, physical, and neural developments. Objective. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to discuss what a child is capable of doing at different months after birth. Contents: motor development in infancy and childhood. At birth, newborns prefer the mother's voice to another woman's. No preference is shown for the father's voice over other male voices. How that preference is demonstrated is by using a procedure where the newborn has to suckle to play a voice for them to hear. Newborns will suckle more if their suckling results in playing their mother's voice rather than another woman's. Another aspect of the child that is taken advantage of by researchers is the length of time that they spend looking at objects or displays. Infants can identify novel things. They will look longer at new or novel things than at old things. Presenting an infant with a display, and the infant will look at it for quite a while, but after that display has been presented a few times, they will not look at it much more. However, present a new display and the infant again looks for quite a while at the display. So, infants are able to tell the difference between things that they have seen and things that are new. Also, at 4 months, infants prefer complex visual stimuli to simple visual stimuli. Around that time of 4 months, infants are also able to perceive depth and 3 dimensions. How do we know that they perceive in 3 dimensions? Using a habituation paradigm. We can record how long infants look at events that are possible versus impossible. Where a possible event is one where a little car passes in front of a block, and an impossible event is one where a little car seems to pass through a block. It's physically impossible for cars to pass through blocks. Theories of childhood. People generally. In the past, few distinctions were made between childhood and adulthood. In the 17th and 18th century, schooling was introduced for children because it was reorganized that an educated population would benefit society as people would be a better labor force. Thomas Hobbes believed that children are guilty of original sin as they were intensely selfish, egoist, so society must control them. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, on the other extreme, believed that children have an intuitive sense of right and wrong, or innate purity, and that sense is only misdirected by society. One suggestion is that Rousseau believed children were noble savages. John Locke, on the other hand, suggested that people are born with no tendencies at all. That is, newborn children have minds like tabula rasa or blank slates just waiting to have information written on them. Most infants develop motor abilities in the same order and at approximately the same age. In this sense, most agree that these abilities are genetically programmed within all infants. The environment does play a role in the development, with an enriched environment often reducing the learning time and an impoverished one doing the opposite. The following chart delineates the development of infants in sequential order. The ages shown are averages, and it is normal for these to vary by a month or two in either direction. 2 months, able to lift head up on his own. 3 months, can roll over. 4 months, can sit propped up without falling over. 6 months, is able to sit up without support. 7 months, begins to stand while holding onto things for support. 9 months, can begin to walk, still using support or creep or crawl. 10 months, is able to momentarily stand on her own without support. 11 months, can stand alone with more confidence. 12 months, begin walking alone without support. 14 months, can walk backward without support. 17 months, can walk up steps with little or no support. 18 months, able to manipulate objects with feet while walking, such as kicking a ball. Physical development. The creation of a new human being begins with the sperm fertilizing the egg. Those 46 chromosomes develop into a human being. The fertilization marks the beginning of the gestation period, which includes the period between conception and birth. Gestation can be divided up into 3 stages. 1. Germinal stage. First 2 weeks after fertilization. The fertilized egg becomes implanted in the uterus. During this period, the individual is referred to as a zygote. 2. Embryonic stage. 3rd to 8th week after fertilization. This is very important in the development of the CNS and the internal organs. During this period, the heart starts beating and the individual is known as an embryo, which is recognizably human. The most vulnerable period of gestation is the embryonic period, as that is when the CNS and the other organs are being developed, as well as limbs and facial features. 3. Fetal period. 9 weeks until birth. The individual is now known as fetus. Rapid muscle development occurs, and around 28 weeks, the fetus is capable of sustaining life on its own. Teratogens are any substances that can alter development during the gestation period. Some teratogens are 1. PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, were banned in the 70s, but PCBs have been widely used chemicals. Evidence suggests that PCBs affected development during the embryonic stage, as babies exposed to PCBs developed cognitive functioning deficits. 2. Alcohol. Alcohol women who drink excessive amounts of alcohol during pregnancy can result in children born with fetal alcohol syndrome. 50% of alcoholic mothers' children suffer from FAS. Symptoms of FAS include physical deformities, as well as learning disabilities, behavior problems, and attention deficits. FAS children have been born to women who were binge drinkers as well as chronic drinkers. Neural development. A human neurons mostly develop during the first 7 months of gestation, and the rate of neural development is incredible. Hundreds of thousands of neurons are created every minute. Indeed, more than enough neurons are made, and the ones that are not used die off. That dying off continues through adolescence. Neural development continues after birth. Although most neurons exist at birth, the growth in the brain is primarily due to A. Continuing myelination, and B. Creating new synaptic connections between existing neurons. Different parts of the nervous systems are myelinated at different times. 1. Hearing and balance are fully myelinated at birth, while 2. Memory association areas may not be fully marinated for months or years. The effect of early experiences on neural development has been studied by putting newborn rats into either impoverished or enriched environments. Rats living in enriched environments developed heavier and thicker brains than the rats living in impoverished environments. A similar finding is that simple stroking of human babies born prematurely with decreased brain size and body size faster than premature babies who are not stroked. The idea here is that increased experiences via either an enriched environment or simple physical stimulation will mean increased stimulation of neurons, and that will translate into more neural development. Plasticity. From the earlier discussion of critical periods as well as the description of what functions are performed where in the context, you may have gotten the impression that the brain is hardwired and different parts of the brain exclusively perform functions that cannot be performed by any other parts of the brain. This is not completely true. The brain has some plasticity or adaptability inherent in it, which may allow for some brain structures to perform functions they normally do not perform if needed. Brain damage can be compensated for by other parts of the brain to some extent. This is especially true when the brain injury occurs very early in life. For example, brain injuries to the left hemisphere, the one responsible for language processing in the majority of people, will result in no language deficits, provided that the injury occurs before the age of 5, because the right hemisphere will take over the language processing role. So a brain injury that damages Broca's area would hamper the speech of an individual if this injury occurs at the age of 24 years, but not if it occurs at 24 months. Indeed, there is one case of an individual who had severe epileptic seizures in his left hemisphere, so they remove his entire left hemisphere. All that is there now is cerebrospinal fluid, which might as well be play dull as far as any nervous system functioning is concerned. Yet, this man is now a successful executive. He finished college and was taking some grand school courses. He had been tested as being above average in intellectual ability, despite having only one half a brain. Literally, of course, he is paralyzed on his right side because he is missing his left hemisphere, which could control right side movement, but cognitively he is fine. End of study section 4. Thanks for listening.